Dear brothers and sisters in India and even in the world, very warm Jai Bhim and Namo Buddhaya to all of you. And I'm so pleased and thankful for this online Bhim Jayanti celebration by Kerala Buddhist Council. I really appreciate their efforts to put it online and therefore spread the message of Baba Sahib, the great giant of humanity of our century in our times and centuries to come, to see such a phenomenal man in our lifetime. So I deeply appreciate what the Kerala Buddhist Council has organized through various speakers and thinkers across the province. Dear brothers and sisters, first of all I wish you a very happy Bhim Jayanti, a birth anniversary of Dr. Ambedkar, and I think celebrating such a giant of human being is nothing can be more pleasurable in such a hard times we are passing through. I am very aware that we are passing through an extremely difficult time, and this is quite strange to celebrate Bhim Jayanti online, not because we shouldn't, it's because the way thousands and crores of people used to gather across the country and the world in various institutions, organization halls, and in India in various squares and everywhere. So time has brought us here where we have to celebrate his Jayanti online. But still it has its own importance, significance and relevance. It's extremely important what he has to share today on the crisis we are facing in our own times. I'm very aware that we all are at very extremely important phases of humanity, and also the challenges that we are facing because of the coronavirus pandemic. It is a strange situation, but it's a very unique situation. Every one of us are suffering out of this lockdown situation, the situation we are passing through. We are fortunate to have some sort of lockdown facilities at our home where food is available, water is available, some money is available, and so on and so forth. I don't know how long it will last. But I am also equally aware for those people who are still traveling to home, miles and miles and miles, day and night on the road to reach their towns, to reach their homes. And I also thank every missionary, including government missionaries and state missionaries especially. They are doing extremely good job. And all the people, individual, collective or organizations, those who are coming forward to support these people to sustain in the very hard situation. I'm sure it's a luxury to be isolated, and it's so difficult to think of those people, those who are earning on daily wages, living on their everyday earnings, otherwise they can't light their gas or chula. It's so difficult to understand their situation. So we are facing tremendously stormy time. And this situation is very special. And Dr. Baba Sahib has a great sort of insights and vision to share on this situation. It's extremely important that the world and the nation in particular should understand his message on his birth anniversary as it right come middle of this storm. And I would call it this Jayanti, his birth anniversary, is also came as a pole star guideline in the stormy waves where ship has been stuck and also in fear of sinking and losing the life itself. So this Jayanti, I hope, will show the light as pole star guides the ship in dark times, in the storm and in hard times. I would like to, as I already said, this is a very special situation. I would like to share some of his insight on today's situation or in the crisis in general the world is passing through. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar has something very unique and important insights to share to way forward for this deadlock we are facing today. I would like to bring a notice. I was reading an article yesterday in The Guardian which was published, and the historian called Peter Turchin was referring to a triangle, the triangle of the situation. He was, while citing some historical evidences, he was sort of situating the situation in three major poles. First is the social crisis, plus global connectivity and the pandemic. So there are three important angles to today's situation. How we need to build a global connectivity and avoid social crises that are heading us, that are knocking us at our door, and also to handle this pandemic, the great pandemic that has threatened the humanity. He was citing an example when China and Roman Empire was at its peak in 2nd century CE, Common Era, and in 165 there was a pandemic that hit to the humanity when even Silk Route was at its great glory. He citing that during that time the Antonine Plague hit the humanity, and that plague, though both the empire, China and Roman, were at its peak, but the poor or the slave in their empire was really very poor, and they were struggling for their lives. So when the plague pandemic hit the situation, of course it hit very badly to the poor and the slaves, but eventually it also penetrated into royal families and also attacked the privileged class, and in result both the great empires declined. It's a very important lesson from the history, sort of trying to teach us in present moment. Likewise, in the 6th century Common Era, the same plague had a same story. At the same time, in 14th century, when Black Death attacked the world, we had same emergencies that hit at the door of humanity, knocked the death knock at the door of humanity. And we are very aware the great pandemic that has also claimed a lot of lives of people called by Spanish flu in 1918 to 1920. So in this all situation, humanity were at great stake. Somehow humanity survived. Somehow world overcome those crises at the cost of millions and millions of lives and economy. And the poorest were the most affected people. But this Pandemic also reminds me of a very great Indian lady called Savitri Bai Phule. She served the poor, untouchables, and all needy people at the cost of her life to save the people from the great pandemic that affected especially lower caste in the western Maharashtra. So in these dark and bleak times, there are giants of human beings who tried to show us the path, who tried to show us the guideline that has been trying to navigate the ship of humanity in stormy waves. I think it's extremely important to pay homage, respect, and take lessons from the lives of these people. So, but what is unique in this today's pandemic we are facing? Coronavirus pandemic. What happened in the past, in any war situation, there were always enemy and opponents. There is always people of this shore and that shore. Very obvious examples are of World War First and World War Second. Whoever's alliance, that's another story. And I'm not interested in historicity of war. But to fight the to fight the war, you need an enemy at one shore and the enemy at other shore. But what is interesting and unique in the crisis we are facing today, that the entire humanity at it one shore and the coronavirus at another shore. So it also inviting this situation to dissolve all our differences that we are carrying within our mind, within our societies, within our culture, within our religion. It's extremely important to understand this. And that's where probably Dr. Ambedkar was trying to head his thinking, to navigate his thinking, to finish all forms of discrimination, inequalities, and oppressions. Of course, he fought in a particular situation in India for fighting against the caste untouchability and other religious-based oppression based on Hindu caste system. But at the same time, while navigating his ship to liberate the nation, he is also showing us the light to entire world. How to handle the crisis. Of course, in his own life, which he lived for 65 years, he himself faced the great crisis. He himself faced the death of his own parent, own beloved wife, 4 kids. He himself hit very badly, very severely by caste untouchability, poverty, and struggle in his education. In spite of all these odds in his life, he could able to survive, and not only survive for just sake of living, but he liberated million of his people from India, in India. And not only so-called untouchables, but also almost everyone, those who were oppressed in those situations. It's interesting to notice during the Spanish flu 1918 to 1920, he was in the Europe, he was in the Western world. I don't know how he maintained his strength and spirits to maintain his own sort of positivity to show the path for the survival of humanity. So as if this 14th April 2020, which we are celebrating in the midst of these waves, stormy waves of corona pandemics, Dr. Ambedkar stands like a pole star in the sky and guiding the ship of humanity, not in India but in the world. And how and what we need to understand from his life is an important question before us, because no one has invited this situation. No leader, no country, no politics, no culture, no religion has invited these conditions. But in these conditions, while facing the crisis of coronavirus, we also need to understand, if we do not tread the path of humanity and equality and compassion on the road of crisis we are passing through, I think we will heritage a different world. Because we are at the stake of alteration of the economy, the businesses, cultures, and also the humanity itself. And my biggest worry and question and concern, how humanity will respond to those crises. And I would say, what I learn, or what we should learn on this very day from the life of Dr. Ambedkar, is nothing but the great power of compassion and humanity and love and friendship. That is what needed for world to follow. We cannot afford to discriminate people on the basis of race, on the basis of caste, on the basis of gender, on the basis of color or economy. If we do that, we will be in an illusion that those who are rich, those who are privileged, those who are can afford to isolate for ages will be safe. But mind you, my friends, Corona does not have any religion. Corona does not have any race. Corona does not have any caste. Corona does not have any gender. Corona is the all evil forces that we might have represented in the past. So it's the collective karma, the collective actions that brought us at this situation. Therefore, every crisis, of course, there is fear, anxiety, negativity comes out, but every crisis also gives us a great opportunity to bring out something best out of human beings. Their generosity, their compassion, their care, their love, and their concerns for the world, their concerns for the humanity itself, the cultures itself. That's what any religion, any culture, any society should teach or should be guided by. That's what Dr. Ambedkar was trying to do. People are facing not only the actual and practical difficulties, but those people who think they are privileged and they can isolate themselves in luxury, they are also passing through various mental anxieties. The anxiety of fear, anxiety of disease, anxiety of virus, anxiety of death and life itself, which is something we need to understand very deeply. In that sense, it will not affect only poor or laborers or working class or lower caste, but it will affect everyone. And that's where I think we need to solidify as a human being by forgetting all our agreements and disagreements, by forgetting our all discriminatory tendencies, by forgetting and forgiving people, and by forgetting our prejudices, our condition that we have heritage from the way we conditioned our own mind. That's what exactly these moments are trying to teach us. When I look around my window, when I look at the deadly silent roads, when I look at the deadly silent squares and roundabouts, and when I hear those deep sounds in the night where there is absolute silence, but that absolute silence is also breathing a very heavy breath of life and death. So I was trying to listen that silence. I was trying to listen the silence of that moments which are trying to teach us something very deep buried in human psyche. So such situation not only can bring merely worst or cruel that is deeply hidden in human psyche, but this situation is also giving us a great opportunity to bring something best out of humanity we can, or we can ever can. So that's what these movements are trying to teach us. Because this virus does not discriminate. This virus affected rich, this virus is affecting poor, this virus is affecting everyone. The Prime Minister of Britain got it, many royal family members got it, including all important person, probably they might have got affected by it, and of course poor will be hit very worst by it because they may not have the enough facilities for their treatment. So at one level or at superficial level, this virus has equalizes the human psyche. Everyone is in fear of their life and death. Everyone is in fear and concern for their own safety and security. And who does not want safety and security in this world? Everyone wants. Who does not want care in this world? Who does not want love in this world? Who does not want to live healthy in this world? Everyone wants. And that everyone, what I mean here is equally everyone. Everyone equally wants it. So the great virus, the another danger we might have faced in this crisis is the virus of inequality. The virus of inequality based on race, the virus of inequality based on economy, the virus of inequality based on religion, the virus of inequality based on gender, the virus of inequality based on nationalities, the virus of inequality based on caste. It's extremely important, dear friends, to understand. Sooner the better we kill these both the viruses. Sooner the better, if at all humanity wants to survive. Otherwise, I'm sure humanity will survive. Human beings will survive and this storm will pass. But what world we will inherit or heritage after post-coronavirus, that is a crucial question before us. Because it is equally affecting everyone. The image come in my mind in these moments of anxiety and fear of death. Every religion has an image of death. In Christianity, we do see the image of dance of death, where skeletons are dancing. In Hindu mythology, there is a image of Yamaraja, the god of death that comes and takes your soul away from you. Also in Buddhism, there is an image of Dakini and Vidyadharas. But they are more compassionate and they try to give a life even in the death. So probably every religion try to address the question of life and death. But when I say every religion, is for you and me. When I say for every caste, that's for you and me. Death itself, life, reality itself does not see the ego, does not see the caste, does not see the gender, does not see the color. In that sense, we all are equally facing the crisis. And if we do not solidify as a human being on the basis of compassion and equality, I think we will inherit a very different world, probably the very difficult world. Because no one can be safe in isolation. That's what the Buddha's message. Nothing can exist in isolation. That isolation has a condition. and the condition we are responding now will produce the world in future. What world in the future we are going to inherit. So these moments are trying to communicate with us something very deep that is buried in us, the worst and the best. So that worst must be countered with the best in us. So therefore, the first teaching Dr. Ambedkar shares that the function of the Dhamma is to reconstruct the world. Because the world we borrowed now or got now is also because of what we have performed, what we have inherited, what we have cultivated in the past. That's the world we got now. But what kind of world we will inherit in the future, that is depend crucially on the present moments and the present responses from the humanity. That is what Dr. Ambedkar was trying to get at. The reconstruction of world must be based on liberty, equality and fraternity. When he says the function of Dhamma is to reconstruct the world, what he meant by the Dhamma must provide, a religion must provide an environment where an individual or group or society must cultivate an environment for everyone's development, for everyone's empowerment, without discrimination. Without discrimination. That's everyone's safety, everyone's care must be the fundamental to the development of the world. So, if we treat people unequally, whether they survive or not, whether they get treatment or not, whether they will live or not everyone will die among rich or among poor. Some of them will hit very badly, some of them will hit maybe superficially. But the experiences that we will inherit because of the responses in our present moment probably will inherit the bad world or the world which we never thought of. And therefore, it's extremely important that we must simultaneously deal the virus of inequality and discrimination. Those who cannot afford treatment, those who cannot afford medicine, those who cannot afford isolation, those who are still walking on the street, they must be supported. Otherwise, there will be increasing tension between humanity. We will stretch the polarity, which is unhealthy not only for society but for every nation. Not only for particular caste or community, but for every country, for every community and every culture. So, that's what Dr. Ambedkar was trying to get at when he says about the reconstruction of the world. So, because in 1936 Dr. Ambedkar said, on the basis of these isolated ideals, the privileged and underprivileged, the ideals that we have borrowed on the basis of caste, on the basis of gender, on the basis of religion, produce the selfish ideal. And we are still selfish, thinking that I am safe here. There is no safe place in the world as far as pandemic is concerned, because Corona has no boundaries. Corona does not need visas. So we are isolated not to cultivate selfish ideal, but we are, wherever we are, should or must try to cultivate the saving ideals. We have to save humanity. I am distancing from you, not because I want to distance from you, but I want your protection. But I want you to be safe. I want me to be safe. So there is a equality. as far as care, life and death is concerned, as far as the precautions are concerned. And because I can afford, I can do it, but also those who can't, we should do as much or whatever we can from our own isolated places. It's extremely important to understand this. If we do not address the simultaneous virus of inequality, probably we will invite the lot of tension in humanity, and that is unhealthy for every nation, every society, every culture, every caste, every race, every color, every gender. Sooner the better we diminish this gulf is the better, according to Dr. Ambedkar. That's what Dr. Ambedkar differentiates between the freedom of the people and the freedom of the nation. Those people living in that nation must be free. They should feel free. They should feel cared. They should feel looked after. That's where the difference. In that sense, your care, your compassion, your responses is not mere thought, mere not fantasy. We have to act on it at individual level, at group level, at national level, at international level. So that is extremely important. If we do that, there is always sort of the polarity in Indian thought, the Atmavad and Anatmavad. If we create a selfish ideal, if we think that my community, my caste, my house should be safe, that's not the true insight. If I try to look after others, automatically I will be looked after. Or if I respond compassionately, everyone will be looked after, and that's how I can minimize the crisis. That's how minimize the pandemic even. The precaution not just for me, but precautions for everyone. So if this is selfish ideal, produce the society based on Atmavad. Atmavad, very touching sensitivities of human life that are knocking or hammering at our ears, that not only you but everyone needs that care. So in that sense, you and I are in the same situation. You are in isolation, I am in isolation. You are locked down, I am also locked down. You are worried about life, I am also worried about my life. So everyone. So it equalizes the situation. Therefore, the response to that situation must be equal, must be compassionate, must be cared, must be looked after very with the equal efforts. Not just that privilege should enjoy their privileges and they can enjoy all foods and all, and others will die out of hunger. So we will invite the hunger pandemic, if not corona pandemic. So what we are facing right now, or in this crisis, the two consciousness. One is corona consciousness, that is bringing all the worst out of what we have collectively done wrong, probably. We encroach individual spaces, we encroach communal spaces, other spaces, and we also encroach the environmental spaces, the natural spaces. So in that sense, I or we as a human become very selfish. We become very self-oriented and become less sensitive towards other, as a other fellow human being or animal being or nature itself. Therefore, it's important to understand that this coronavirus is sort of representing the evil forces, evil sort of the fear. But at the same time, those corona crises are also teaching us something deep in us, something deep in our human psyche, something deep in our human society, that we cannot live in isolation, that we cannot afford to live in isolation. We cannot encroach other spaces. We cannot overpower other human being on the basis of economic, class, caste, gender, color, whatever, or nation. Whether it's poor or rich country, affected. Whether it's a big leader or common citizen, affected. Whether it's a man or woman, affected. Poor or rich, affected. So this deeper sort of insight, these moments are also try to communicate us. So this corona consciousness has to be defeated, has to be threatened, not by another imposition of virus of inequality or virus of discrimination or virus of any prejudices or ideologies or political gimmicks, but this virus needs to be countered by compassion. So there is also another consciousness that must emerge to fight with this situation that all human beings has potential of. That's called the compassionate consciousness, equal consciousness, the consciousness that does not discriminate, the consciousness that does not allow us others to die, but gives hand to support them, the hand that lifts them up. In that sense, before this situation, everyone is in trouble, and therefore we need a human solidarity. We need the awareness about ourselves and deep awareness about others to look after, to save their lives and make this world a better place. And when I say this compassion, it's not an idea, it's not a thought, it's not a romantic feeling. This is a compassion in action. We have to act right now. Why? Because I thought I will travel to my home after 10 days. When I thought when my university semester will over, I will travel here and there. But everything is cancelled. Suddenly the world is frozen. Suddenly the world has gone mute. And in the silence, and deep silence rather, and that silence has fear, anxiety, as I already said. And those silence are trying to sort of sensitize my consciousness very deeply, try to sensitize my human consciousness very deeply, because what I thought is not true. What I imagine, what I thought that the world exists out there like this and will be forever like that, or likewise, that's not true. That's so untrue. That's where the Buddha's great insight come. The world is a momentary, transitory. It's changing all the time. It's changing every moment. So the future has been cancelled in that sense. We don't know what future has hold for us. I'm sure, as I say, humanity will survive. We will survive. I don't know how many lives this pandemic will claim, but humanity will survive. But as I already mentioned, important what kind of world we will heritage, what kind of future we will heritage. And I don't want to cancel the bright future if we can at all afford right now. At this very moment, I have to act. I have to act with equality. I have to act with liberty. I have to act with fraternity. I have to act with the justice, as Dr. Ambedkar very well said in the preamble of Indian Constitution. That's extremely important to understand. If at all we have to govern any crisis in the world or in India. So, friends, we need to cultivate that sort of sympathy, not just in idea, not just in thoughts, but in action. Because future has been cancelled and we have to bring a better future. We have to bring the bright future. And that's where Dr. Ambedkar's second teaching comes. He gives a formula about democracy. While defining democracy, he says in 1936, in his very celebrated article, Annihilation of Caste, that a democracy is not a mere form of government. is the associated living experiences. We have to live in association. We have to live in harmony. So democracy is an attitude of mind, is an attitude of your consciousness. It's not merely a form of government. Otherwise, many people think that may not be always true. In that sense, democracy can be gullible if it is not based on the morality, based on humanity, based on equality. So, while defining democracy, Dr. Ambedkar says that it's the fraternity that is the root of democracy. And what is fraternity? To empathize with other human being, to sympathize with other human being in associated living experiences. In that sense, we all are living in equal experiences. If you care for me, I must care for you. If you care for me, I must care for you. And there must be care for each one of us equally. It's important. So in that sense, he says that fraternity is the basis for the democracy. Then he says democracy is not equipped word. It's not an it is an inequipped word. He says that I have to borrow to define democracy the word from the dictionary of the Buddha. He says that Maitri, Metta, love or loving kindness is the true and the root foundation of democracy. Why? Maitri, let me just tell you one thing about this beautiful word called Maitri. Maitri is in Sanskrit. It's called Metta in Pali. Me atta. I am exactly like you. Likewise. Me means I. Atta means likewise. I am exactly like you. If you are locked down, I am also locked down. Are you worried about your food and shops? Will they be open and will I be survive? I am also equally worried about whether the shops will be open, how long they will be open, how long food will be supplied. Or those who are not having food and walking, they are also equally suffering. How long we will sustain? If not, by coronavirus we will die out of hunger. So everyone is heated equally. So your situation is my situation is your situation. And therefore, if that's the evil, if that's the corona has brought us, what compassion will bring in? Or what Maitri, what love will bring in? That you need care, I need care. Those who are not getting enough help, they need care. And equally they need care. So in that sense, we are equal. I want no infection, likewise you want no infection. You don't like this lockdown for 24/7 in your home. I don't like lockdown for 24/7 at home. And it's not about just poor and rich, it's about everyone. Even leaders, administrators, everyone is worried about this equally. So that's the metta, sort of the force of metta is a cosmic power, I would say, at this moment, that needs to be exaggerate as much as possible, accelerate as much as possible, cultivated as much as possible, because everyone needs care. So to defeat this crisis, what we need, the force of metta, what we need, the force of maitri. And therefore Dr. Ambedkar says the true foundation of democracy or fraternity lies in the deep root called maitri, metta, loving kindness. That's his second teaching I wanted to sort of share with all of you. Thirdly, extremely important, another insight of him, which is guiding this ship in the waves of crisis like a pole star in the dark nights in our times. He says that the function of Dhamma is to install a moral order. The order that is based on morality. Niti, he says. A right conduct. The kingdom of righteousness, where no one suffers. Why? I'm saying this because, as I already mentioned, we have sort of, maybe individually or by particular groups or by human as a whole, we have arrived at this situation by encroaching nature, by encroaching others' right, by encroaching others' resources with the selfish ideal. So at individual level, I might have committed some mistakes. At collective level, we might have committed mistakes, but that affected the nature itself, that affected the ecosystem itself, that affected the environment itself. So at all this level, we have created the barriers of rich, poor, caste, creed, gender, white, black, animal, human, my pleasure, your pleasure, and so on and so forth. So if we do that at the cost of others' right, that will not bring a moral order. That will not bring the moral institution in the world or in humanity. In that sense, what we have experienced, or what I have experienced, upper castes are blind to the problems of lower caste. Whites are blind to the black. Rich are blind to the poor. Probably men are blind to women. And power is blind to the people's welfare or their generosity, because their greed has blinded them. In that sense, if we do keep on producing selfish ideals, we will not create a moral order. And that's where Dr. Ambedkar tried to emphasize that the function of the Dhamma, the function of the any philosophy, is to establish a moral order. And that order must be based on equality. This order must be based on a selfless ideal, no self ideal, anatman, as Buddha said, no atmavad, on that basis. Therefore, in Buddha and his Dhamma, the celebrated work of his, he says that Saddhamma, the true Dhamma, the real Dhamma, must pull down all the barriers between men and men, among human. It must pull down the social barriers. It must pull down the barriers that are stopping our creativity to flow to others, to reach to others, and to create the Dhamma Rajya, the kingdom of righteousness. That's what we need to do. In Marathi, he uses a beautiful word called manuski. Humanity. Humanity is a prime goal. And that moral order needs to be deepened as much as possible on the basis of equality. And the Buddhist terms he uses are the prajna, wisdom, the true insight of nature of things, compassion, karuna, and shil, the ethics, the precepts, the ethical conducts, the sense that sort of sensitize us towards other human being. And that morality he divides at two levels. First as sacred, another at universal. What is sacred here? Sacred here is not religious. I mean, quote unquote religious or ritualistic or dogmatic or sprinkling holy waters. That's not sacredness he meant here. Sacredness here is to kill your ego. Om Swabhava Shuddho Sarva Dharmaha Swabhava Shuddho Hang. That's what Nagarjuna says in Prajna Paramita Sutra. So that Swabhava, that the nature I have inherited is Shunya in nature. It has no nature. It has no ego actually, if you see. And those moments are trying to tell us again and again. However big house or small house I have, I'm not going to take it away with me. However bank balance I have, I'm not going to take it away with me. In that sense, it's sacred. There is no ego. There is no selfish ideal in morality. In that sense, it is sacred. And because it's sacred, at the level of no self, no selfishness, it has a potential to become universal. It has to become universal, therefore, because I'm not selfish. If I'm not selfish, I'll try to universalize my resources. I will try to universalize humanity. I'll do my best, at least limited or unlimited level, that depends on each individual, how much they can contribute to these positive forces. That's extremely important to understand. So in that sense, Dr. Ambedkar says the morality is sacred and universal. Because if I create the morality on the basis of caste, death will equalize everything. Corona will equalize everything. Any calamities will equalize everything. It affects everyone. So those conditions or those notions I have cultivated in my mind, they are false. They are illusory. It gives an illusion to my eyes. That's how I see the world, which does not ever existed. In that sense, the world is shunya. The world is anatman. Because that ego, that atman I have cultivated or I have thought never exists. It cannot exist. It does not exist. In that sense, it's sacred. And if I try to understand this, I would be able to establish a universal moral order based on equality, based on liberty, based on fraternity from the Buddha's teaching, based on non-violence, based on non-discrimination, based on justice, based on dignity. So I was reading an article in the Guardian published a couple of days ago, I think. The author, I think that article was written by Laura Spinney in Guardian, arguing that not every pandemic creates the social crisis. Not every pandemic has taken away the humanity. But if we do not parallelly address the virus of inequality, the virus of selfish ideal, probably that will be worsen the situation. That will be worse the situation and create the tensions among societies and culture. That's extremely important. So in that sense, this selfish ideal based on inequality is more dangerous and unhealthy to humanity. Even than coronavirus. Of course, we have to deal and kill coronavirus on the basis of equality and compassion, and we have to fight on that basis of equality. So sooner the better. We sort of kill the notion of inequality and treat every human being with the care. Amartya Sen, while acknowledging Dr. Ambedkar, has something very important to say. He was saying that as we live in an unequal economy, there are always the deterioration of quality of human life. So I was thinking, what is the use of economy and power of wealth if your own brothers and sisters are dying out of hunger? What is the use of that economy which is only showing the indicators of GDP, but not showing the index of human development? So however rich you are, if you are not grown as a human, probably that wealth is useless. That wealth has no value. That money has no value. I was reading the story the other day from Italy. A 73-year-old man was saved from the coronavirus infection, and the doctors produced the bill before him. It was so expensive and he started crying. So doctor thought, oh, poor old man may not pay the bill. That's what they thought. And doctor said to that poor old man that, sir, you don't have to pay the bill, don't worry. However you can pay. As much as you can pay. So doctor thought man will be relieved. But what that old man gave answer in written shocked the doctor. He said, doctor, I'm not crying for the bill. I have money to pay the bill and I will pay the bill. But I was thinking for past couple of weeks or 1.5 weeks, I was paying for my breath. I was paying for this oxygen, air to breathe. And now I'm 73-year-old. But I never paid a single paisa, a single penny, which I have breathed from the air free of cost which God has given me. I'm crying for that, how much grateful I am for this life and the clean air that I have breathed till the age of 73 in my life. How can I pay that bill? So probably this is a moment where we need to be grateful and full of gratitude for the resources, whatever small or bigger power we have acquired as a human being. We are celebrating online Jayanti, online celebration of Dr. Ambedkar's birth anniversary, and humanity and evolution has brought us up to this level. And I'm sure in coming days, from Apple 1 to Apple 10, Apple A to Apple Z, Samsung 1 to Samsung Z, Samsung A to Samsung Z will come. But I'm not sure if that will really serve the humanity or the crisis we are facing. So we must reduce down our input and the overconsumption of material for our own luxuries, for our own selfish ideal that we have been produced in past decades and thousands of years. Sooner the better we realize the sort of depth of this movement, the better for us. And therefore Dr. Ambedkar, in every piece of his writing, was addressing the question of humanity and equality and compassion and wisdom. Throughout his writing in various forms, in Annihilation of Caste, in Buddha and Karl Marx, or Buddha and Future of His Religion, Buddha and His Dhamma, Revolution and Counter-Revolution, whatever, what way emancipation, in all his writing, even the day when he embraced Buddhism, he sort of says that I am sort of committed to serve equality and humanity. To establish equality, I am devoted for. Probably that's what he meant, the deeper sense of equality that human life needs. Lastly, the important point I would like to make, and I will finish my talk, dear friends. I know this situation is fearsome and bringing out a lot of anxiety in us. And as I say, there are both the possibilities to amplify and accelerate the worst, and we have a potentiality to beautify the world, inherit the best world by bringing out the best in us, by bringing out the best in us. And he says in 1936, Dr. Ambedkar, the world is full of imperfection, and if you at all wanted to live in harmony, you have to come in terms with this imperfection, with the compassion. You have to understand that we cannot rule the world. Whoever I am right now, minister, professor, collector, whoever, I'm not here forever. We got the time, transitory time. The nature is impermanence, and that is imperfect world means a momentary world. That's what he was trying to get at. The world is momentary. Shashwat, the word he uses. The Shashwat means the eternal, fixed. World is not fixed, it's momentary. That's what Buddha was, actually he is taking the inspiration from Buddha himself, saying that the world is full of imperfection and the world is momentary. We must not think that world exists out there forever. Well, we are experiencing the momentary death right now. So we are experiencing, if I try to use or borrow the word from Acharya Nagarjuna, the great philosopher, we are experiencing the natural emptiness, the natural sort of momentary nature of our own life, natural emptiness in us. And that emptiness is not negation. If that depends how you take the teaching of the moment. If you are negative, if you think with the unskillful mind, if you think with the prejudices, selfish ideals, of course that will lead you to misery. That will lead you to suffering. But if you take the advantage of this moment that crisis has given us, that we have to respond with the compassion. We have to respond with the maitri, the love, with the care for other, support for other, for me and for them. Because if they are in danger, I will be in danger. If I will be in danger, they will be in danger. His equalization. So if we think on the basis of compassion, the best is also trying to knock at the door of our heart. That great compassion is trying to reach out to us, that now is the time, rather high time, to human solidification. It depends where we are treading our path. If we travel down to the disunity of humanity, we will inherit the bad world. But if we travel towards the higher human solidarity, probably there is a still chance that the boon of humanity will survive. The curse of humanity will not overpower the compassion. It cannot anyway. But it's in our hand. Like Buddha says, be your own light. Atta Deepa Bhava. Be your own light and act right now to create the better world in whatever form, in whatever situation you are. So in that sense, this shunyata, this anatman, this no self or selflessness is not static, it's dynamic. It is dynamic. It is trying to hint us that the higher evolution is waiting for us. Therefore I said, by increasing the sizes of TV or car or mobile phone or smartphones or tablets, not necessarily will inherit the greater world, the compassionate world, the beautiful world. Right? So we have to act right now on the basis of compassion by minimizing our need, on the basis of generosity, on the basis of understanding the true nature of things, that they are not like that as I thought of. As I thought that existed forever. Probably we will give the best inheritance to coming generation. We will give the best from what we got from the deeper teachings from these moments. Because the nature of reality, like death or life, does not recognize your ego, does not recognize your power, does not recognize your self, does not recognize your class, does not recognize your gender. Reality is reality. It's infinite, vast. And we have nothing but to accept that reality by expanding ourselves and by coming into terms with that reality, which is beautiful actually. But because of our defiled mind, because of our conditioned mind, because of our prejudices based on the selfish ideal, we have blocked our luminous mind. We have blocked the luminosity that lies in each one of us and humanity in general, humanity as a whole. So better we should unleash these forces of positivity, better we unleash the forces of equality, better we unleash the forces of compassion to serve everyone and trade towards the greater human solidarity based on the compassion, based on moral order, based on Dhamma, will certainly produce the best future for us. That human solidarity we needed, and I'm sure on that basis we can able to fight every challenges and every crisis that we are passing through, and even in the future that are probably heading for us. In that sense, dear friends, this 14th April is showing us the direction like a pole star in the dark nights of the wavy ships. In that sense, Dr. Ambedkar I regard as the giant of human being which tries to guide the ship of humanity towards the ocean of compassion, not the ocean of corona, not the ocean of evils, but the ocean of compassion where all differences dissolves, like Buddha uses this simile itself, that where compassion is the ocean where all rivers merge together and you cannot discriminate which water comes from which river. So in that sense, we need the compassionate human solidarity based on love, based on liberty, based on equality, based on fraternity. I would conclude as by evoking this great compassion that lies in the Bodhicitta, like we call Baba Sahib as a Bodhisattva, Dr. Ambedkar, because he got that Bodhicitta mind. He got the vast mind, infinite love for humanity, which he served at the cost of his life, till the last breath of his life. He served the humanity, he served the equality, he served the liberty, he served the fraternity. So where, as Shantideva says in Bodhicharya Avatar, where forces of evils are great, what will save us? Nothing but the Bodhicitta. So probably whatever ideals we follow, whatever ideals we worship, whatever ideals close to our hearts, in whatever religion, culture, societies, nation, groups we are living in, that must evoke nothing but the compassion and love, nothing but the equality and not inequality, the unconditioned mind and not the conditioned mind, the compassionate mind, not the infected mind. So I wish you a safe life, dear brothers and sisters. I wish you a very healthy life. Stay safe, look after yourself, and may this crisis overcome with the great power of compassion, with the great power of Bodhicitta, and may the figure, the Bodhisattva like Dr. Ambedkar, guide us in the dark, wavy ocean, stormy ocean, to pass the ship of humanity like a pole star. That's my best wishes to all of you. Thank you very much. I wish you all the best. I wish you a very safe and healthy life. May you all be well. Thank you very much. Jai Bhim. Namo Buddhaya.